Okay, so I'm going to go through this quickly. So notice the difference between this one and the ones we've done before, right? This one starts with a negative, right? Which is actually, you could still do everything the same. You could still guess and check and just have something start with a negative. That's actually okay. But most of the time what we would do is factor out a negative then. I mean, if I take a negative from this, I'm going to get negative 4x squared minus 12x minus 7. And then I can just factor what's inside the parentheses, which has a leading coefficient, which is positive. And that's usually what you do. You'd like to start with a leading coefficient, which is positive. Right? In this case, so I'm just going to carry this along for the ride. There's the negative. And then I'm going to have to figure what goes into these positions. Now, 7 is a prime number, but what I don't know is that would it go like this? Negative 7 plus 1? Or maybe it's going to be plus 7 minus 1. And could be that it's plus 1 minus 7, or it could be minus 1 plus 7. Right? Those are all the possibilities when you've got negative 7 as the last term. Okay, now we got to figure out, well then, what goes at the beginning, because 4 is actually not a prime number itself. I mean, what are the factors of 4? Right? You would have to say it's either 4 can be 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. So we would have to play around with all of those, which I don't really, that means that, it could either be, it's a x and 4x, or those could be flipped in that same minus 7 plus 1. Or it could be that it was starting with a 4x and x, right? Or it could be the 2 and 2. That's a lot of guessing. That's a lot of guessing and checking. Yeah. What did you get? Okay, so he's saying negative 2x. Okay, 2x plus 7 and 2x minus 1. 2x plus 7. Well, we factored out the negative, right? Okay, let's see. We may get the sign wrong, but if everything else was right, let's see. Here we're going to get 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x, and then 7 times 2x is 14x, which gives us positive 12x. So we just need to change the signs, right? We just need to make this a minus 7 and a plus 1. Minus 7 plus 1. Okay, now we get positive 2x and minus 14x, which is negative 12x. Okay, so the bottom line is I would not give you a problem that required you to do a lot of guessing like this one. Instead, we do have some processes that could help you to do this. Don't worry about that. And there's 2 different ways to do this. Okay, this is the first way. Okay, when you see that this number here is not 1, then you got to go through a bunch of steps. And the steps go like this. First, you multiply the first number times the last number. What does that equal? 12. Okay, then you find the factors of 12 that add up to 8. So let's see, the factors of 12 are 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. Okay, since it's a positive 12 and a positive 8, we know all the numbers here are positive. Which pair of numbers there adds up to 8? 2 and 6, right? So then, okay, that doesn't mean you just go x plus 2x plus 6, right? That means you have to split up the middle term. Right? That'll be, let me do this. Edit, copy. Edit, paste. And go backwards. That means we're going to use those two numbers and split up the middle term. 3t squared plus 2t plus 6t plus 4. Because what is 2t plus 6t? 8t, okay? So next, group the first two terms, 3t squared plus 2t, right? Group the last two terms. Make sure that that plus goes in between the parentheses, 6t plus 4. And factor each set of parentheses. What's the greatest common factor between 3t squared and 2t? Just a t, right? T is the only thing they have in common. So if I factor that out, I still have a 3t plus 2. Okay, plus. What's the greatest common factor between 6t and 4? 2. So what's left in parentheses that I factor out of 2? 3t plus 2. So notice now, both parentheses have the same thing, 3t plus 2. So the last step is, actually we're factoring 3t plus 2 from both terms. We get 3t plus 2. And what goes in the other set of parentheses is t plus 2. Right, so t plus 2 times 3t plus 2. So how many steps is that, right? That's at least, you know, if you count multiplying a times c to get 12, that's 1, right? This could be 2, find the factors. This could be 3, break up the middle term. This could be 4, group the first two and the last two. And then you've got 2 steps of factoring, which is, what depends how you count. It could be 5 or 6 steps to do this method, which is a lot, right? I wouldn't give you one that actually wasn't pretty doable by guessing and checking, because we tend to make a lot of mistakes going through these processes. Yeah. Yeah, because it has to add up to 8. It has to be the factors of 3 times 4 that add up to 8. Okay? So I'm not going to go through the other method. We'll do the other method for homework. The last thing I'm going to say is, now we can do factoring. We can solve equations that involve this kind of factoring. What's the first step you've got to take if you subtract 3? You got to have everything equal to 0, right? So this is going to be 8t squared minus 2t minus 3 equals 0. So before you start, you always have to do that. Okay, second. Then we got to factor what's there. That if you could guess and check it, by all means you guess and check it, right? Or you could go through that process I just did. So it's up to you. If I was going to just to show the process again, I would multiply. 8 times 3, negative 3 is negative 24, right? What are the factors of 24? 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6, right? If it's going to, one of them's got to be negative if it's negative 24. If they add up to negative 2, then must be that the bigger column is the negative. Yes, you could. You can just guess and check if you want. Okay, which one of those adds up to negative 2? Yeah, 4 and negative 6. So then you would split up the middle term. 8t squared minus 6t plus 4t minus 3 equals 0. And then a group factor. What's the greatest common factor between 8t squared and 6t? 2t. What's left if I take away 2t? 4t minus 3. Okay, well look at the other one already has a 4t minus 3. So the last step, since they both have 4t minus 3, that goes there. And what goes in the other parentheses? 2t plus, because you don't see it there, there's still a 2t plus 1. equals 0. Okay, now, how do you finish solving the equation, Connor? Right. You could have done 4t minus 6t. Okay. I did it this way for a reason I'll explain on Monday. But I would always, if there's a negative and a positive, start with a negative. It'll make things easier. Okay, and then what's the last step? Now we use zero product property. If this product equals 0, what does that tell you? Either 2t plus 1 equals 0, or 4t minus 3 equals 0. And those are both equations you can solve, right? 2t equals negative 1, so t equals negative 1/2. Right, 4t equals 3, so t equals 3/4. Two answers. Okay, so that's it. Yep. Divide both sides by 2. And you see where I get 2t equals negative 1? Right, subtract 1 to the other side, then divide by 2. So this homework you could do by the guess and check. You don't need to do it by the methods I showed you, that other method. It's up to you. If you want to have like a concrete way to do it, that could be one to do it.